Hey guys, it's Robin, RS Island Crafts. Welcome to my craft room. A few years ago, I bought a couple mystery boxes, and inside those boxes were some bags of half square triangles, separated mostly by color. Purple, red, green, whatever. And I decided that this month that was going to be my UFO project. But whoever made these half square triangles did a wonderful job, but they didn't trim them up before they put them in the box because they were probably waiting until they made their own project with them. So today I'm going to show you how I trim up my half square triangles. These are already ready-made half square triangles, which is just basically two fabrics, half one color, half the other, and they're triangles in a square, half square triangles. I have my rotary cutter, and for this one I'm going to use a 6.5 inch ruler. My squares are starting off a little bit larger than 3.5 inches. I could use a 4.5, but when we get going I'll show you why I prefer the 6.5. As you can see, this half square triangle, if it was meant to be started at 3.5 inches, if I lined it up in this one corner, you can see that it has just a smidge, 1/8 of an inch, and then just a little bit less over here in this corner. So this is just a little bit larger than the 3.5 inches we need. Now, as I was cutting through these, some of the ones in the blues, the corners look like it got eaten by the sewing machine, so I couldn't quite get a 3.5 inch out of all of them. So I started cutting those down to 3 inches. When I realized it'd probably be just easier to cut them all down to 3 inches. Plus, I believe it's Bonnie Hunter who said, if your fabric is ugly, you just haven't cut it small enough. Now, a lot of these fabrics just are not my style. I like this one, but several of them, they're just not me. So I decided to go ahead and, when I started cutting them down to the 3.5 inches, I realized that they're not too bad. They're much better at the smaller size. You could go to 3.25, but I'm going to go to 3.5. Now, what we need to do is we're going to be lining up this line that What we're going to do is we're going to line up the line that goes through the center of our square with the center of our half square triangle. Now, when I take my 4.5 inch one and I line it up, when I put my hand on it, I just barely have enough to put my hand on. But if I switch to my 6.5, no matter where I place it, I have extra away from the square, and I'm not just doing fingertips. I can actually splay my whole hand out. I'm keeping it away from the edges. I'm not going to cut my fingers, and I have enough pressure. So that's why I go with a little bit bigger than the square I'm working on. Now, when you make a half square triangle, you're going to sew your two fabrics together and cut it all, and then you're going to iron it, generally to the dark side. So you have a little lip here. So you have a fabric on the top and a fabric on the bottom. I find that if I start with my fabric that's on the top, on the right first, and I trim my half square triangle this way, I have an easier chance of lining up my line and making sure it stays lined up than if I were to go this way. For some reason, maybe it just wobbles for me, or maybe it's a real thing. I'm not sure. So I put my half square triangle down. I line my center line up along the center line of the two colors where they're sewn together, and I make sure that that line is on both of them. Now, sometimes I might have a wonkier one, and it might look like this on the fabric. You may have extra up here and not much over there. But as long as you're lined up straight on this line, and you're equal all the way through, you're going to be okay. Because this line's going to be straight, even though your fabric might be a little bit off. Now, the next thing to take into consideration is what size square are you making? I'm making a 3 inch square, so I need to make sure that I follow the 3 inch line all the way over and all the way up and make sure there's fabric on both sides. I wouldn't want to start trimming down here because I would be off of my 3 inches would be off of, I'd be out of fabric. I wouldn't be able to cut it at 3 inches. Which for me is a good reason why I like to make my squares a little bit larger and then trim back instead of trying to make them the exact size. So I have my line lined up. I double check my 3 inches are good. Putting good pressure down. And then I cut off that side. Now see, I'm trying to work around the camera, so I sliced and my ruler moved a little. But because I'm doing a 3-inch one, I can go ahead and recut that cut because I have plenty of room. Because I want to make sure that when I'm done, that I have both colors are in the tip. You don't want to have a bunch of white and not enough purple. So then I take it, I grab this corner, and I spin it all the way around to the opposite side. So now my top fabric is over on the left. Once again, I'm going to be lining up my line down the center, but this time I'm going to line the bottom of my fabric up with the 3-inch mark. Sometimes it's a little harder with these rulers because they have lots of lines in it. They do have special rulers just for squaring up half square triangles, but I tend not to buy too many specialty rulers because for the price they cost and the storage that I have to have them stored in my craft room somewhere, they need to be useful for more than just one thing. I'm the same way with kitchen appliances. I need to be able to do more than one thing with my appliance if I'm bringing it into the house. Okay, so I'm lined up on my line, and I have everything going straight down to the point and straight across. Putting good pressure, following through all the way past the square. Sometimes I just have a little bit of the dog ear left afterwards because you're cutting through so many layers of fabric. You can clip it off with scissors, or you can just trim it up a little bit. Okay, there you go. As you can see, it's 3 inches. It's nice and square, and when you start sewing these together, then everything will line up nicely for you. Let's do one more. Okay, I'm lining my line up in the center, making sure I have fabric past my 3-inch mark on both the left and the bottom. My line is straight across. Good pressure, follow through. Grab the corner, spin it around. Line up my 3-inch and 3-inch down at the corner. Make sure my line's straight on the center. Follow through. Much easier to do when you're not reaching around a camera. So it should be much easier for you. Now if you have one of those rotating cutting mats, it'll make it even faster for you. Now here the trimming's just from those 2 squares because you're gonna have one side, the other, and the other, the other. So you're gonna have 4 sides because it's a square. Now I throw these away. I'm really not that much of a scrap saver for the little things. Now some people like to save these and they make pet beds for animals in shelters, or they put them in pin cushions, or who knows what else they do with them. But I can only save so much and I can only make so much. So these are going to go in the trash. So that's how I square up my half square triangles. And now if I want, I can make some pinwheels. I always have to quadruple check to see. It never quite looks right to me, but I believe that's a pinwheel. That's it for me. We'll see you next time. Bye! If you like this video, please go ahead and click the like button. If you want to see more like this, go ahead and subscribe in the link down below or over here on the video. And we'll see you next time. Have a great day.